You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's May the 27th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News, your cannabis and psychedelic news source here at paceradio.net. Good morning, Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Al. How are you?
Not too bad. Did you get out and enjoy the weather on your bike?
I was out yesterday for about 3 minutes because it's been off and on raining here. So, but today I have a 2-hour ride planned. It's supposed to be cloudy, and it is. It's not supposed to rain, so that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, well, here's hoping you get to go out for a ride on your new bike. So we're going to start today's news broadcast with some sad news, and that's the passing of, within the cannabis community here in Canada, a man by the name of Neil Magnuson. He passed away fighting for cancer. And as we know, cancer is a nasty beast. A lot of us fight it. Personally, myself, I've had cancer, and as well as I've lost members of our family over the years due to cancer.
I think most people have that experience.
You know, and it's not a good time. It's a nasty time, and you know, my heart goes out to his family. Friends that that knew Neil very well. I got to meet Neil in my early days of cannabis advocacy over 20 years ago, and that was through his advocacy. He was rollerblading across Canada to bring awareness about cannabis. It's called the Freedom Tour, and he rollerbladed across the country and did it, I believe, 4 times. On his first trip, that's when I got to first meet him, and that was in Toronto. I was with some other advocates in the city, and I was told this guy needed a ride across Toronto to pick up some medicine and go to see his friends. So, and he got into the van, piled in with the rest of our friends, got him a seat, and we got him across the city. And I just thought it was a great story to meet this guy. Who's rollerblading across the country, and over the years got to know him more, and he did podcasting. Then there's the cannabis substitution program out west, where
what was that?
Cannabis substituting giving cannabis to people who are addicted to drugs and living on the street and stuff, and now they're across the country. There's places in Ontario, down your area, cannabis substitution program put on there by Chris Backer, and that's helping people who are addicted to drugs and helping people who are homeless and stuff like that. So,
wow, sad to lose someone that cares about other people like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got Neil's page here. You can see some of the comments on his Facebook page. We've lost another great man. Rest in peace, Neil. You were a true hero, my friend. You were deeply missed by many of us. That's by his friend by the name of Penny. We have lost a great man in Neil Magnuson. You're my friend. You're a true hero. That's by his friend Casey. There's more down here as we go along. I'm just going to flip through some here. Neil Magnuson. Me and AJ were always in front of the weed line to see you soon, my friend. Now you are with AJ. Blaze it up there. Pictures with groups of people. Others have been leaving comments on his page. My heart goes out, yet it's still lit. Neil had a song that he loved singing, and it was "Oh Cannabis." There you go, Neil. Rest in peace, Neil. So yeah, he was well loved by the people in the community, and you can see people are showing that on his Facebook wall.
Rest in peace, Neil. I wish I would have known you.
Yeah, you would never have met Neil. That's right. So, but it's as we go along in these years, a lot of these people who were fighting for cannabis legalization have been passing away.
And we're all getting older too. So
we're all getting older. Exactly. And we're patients, and we're patients because we're sick.
Yep.
Right? All right. On with the rest of the news. We're going to get started with MJ Biz Daily. Headline says, Judge skeptical of challenge to federal marijuana prohibition.
An effort by 4 cannabis businesses, including one multi-state operator, to undo federal cannabis prohibition via constitutional challenge was met with skepticism by a federal judge in Massachusetts on Wednesday. The cannabis companies, led by Chicago-based MSO Verano Holdings, last year hired super lawyer David Boies to revisit an argument dismissed in 2005 by the U.S. Supreme Court that the Federal Controlled Substances Act unconstitutionally harms their businesses.
The lawsuit, once again, is meant to reach the Supreme Court, where the plaintiffs hope the justices will issue a different ruling than the one reached 19 years ago, before the current patchwork of state-regulated cannabis markets. According to news agency Reuters, Boies acknowledged in U.S. District Court in Springfield, Massachusetts on Wednesday that asking a lower court judge to issue a ruling that contradicts the Supreme Court is a big step.
However, Boies added, U.S. District Court Judge Mark Mastroianni could simply find that the 2005 decision in Gonzalez versus Reich no longer applies because of how drastically the facts have changed. And facts never changed. They're always facts. I think there can be no doubt that the predicates of that decision no longer exist, Boies argued, according to Reuters.
Mastroianni reacted coolly to Boies' suggestion that a lower court justice could undo a Supreme Court ruling. The judge says, even if I'm accepting that everything you're saying is true, it's for the Supreme Court to change.
It's unclear when Mastroianni might issue a ruling, which could then be appealed. The next step on the way to any case the Supreme Court might choose to hear. It is also unclear whether cannabis companies would pursue that route, even after if the Biden administration's effort to reschedule cannabis as less dangerous under the federal law, thus unlocking tax relief, is finalized.
Yeah, no, Verano didn't respond to any request by MJ Biz Daily. In addition, Verano plaintiffs in the case include Massachusetts-based retailer Canna Provisions, Tree Vet Delivery Service CEO Gayassi Sellers, and marijuana cultivator Wiseacre Farm.
In 2005, only a few states had legal medical cannabis programs, and even personal grow risk raised from federal law enforcement. Now, nearly half the country has access to regulated adult use cannabis, and publicly traded cannabis companies operate without interference from federal law enforcement.
And in a separate 2021 decision brought by a Colorado company challenging the IRS prohibition on cannabis business deductions, conservative U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote that the federal cannabis law might no longer be necessary or proper given state legalization laws.
That might be the first sentence I've ever heard that I agree with Justice Thomas on.
And I was thinking the same thing.
In an opinion on standing akimbo versus the United States, Thomas said that the status quo strains basic principles of federalism, notably that the current high court is dominated by former members of the Federalist Society, a libertarian advocacy group.
Boies pointed to Thomas' 2021 statement in the standing akimbo case on Wednesday while arguing before Mastroianni, the judge. So, see what happens. People are trying.
Really positive. If Thomas is saying that this could happen, that's a positive thing for me.
Yeah, because states' rights. to determine that. Yeah, it's got to be taken off the books federally. It's ridiculous.
And I don't even think it should be moved to Schedule 3. I think it should be removed completely.
Just removed completely. All right, on to the next story. This one comes to us from Science Alert. Scientists think this psychedelic drug could treat anorexia.
The psychedelic drug psilocybin, as found in magic mushrooms, has a promising potential as a treatment for the eating disorder anorexia nervosa, according to new research that looked at its effects on an animal model of the condition. Psilocybin appears to free up the brain enough to break out of the rigid patterns of thought which are a hallmark of the disease. It's already used to treat depression, and clinical trials are underway to evaluate its safety in treating people with anorexia.
Okay. Researchers, led by a team from Monash University in Australia, took a closer look at how psilocybin affects the brain when it comes to diet and exercise behaviors to try to find out more about its effectiveness for the condition. The researchers wrote in their paper, a mechanistic understanding of the actions of psilocybin is required to tailor the clinical application of psilocybin to individuals most likely to respond with positive outcomes. This can only be achieved using incisive neurobiological approaches in animal models.
The animal model involved observations using rats that were given an unlimited access to exercise via a running wheel, but limited access to food, a widely used standard for mimicking anorexia in animals. There were two key findings. First, psilocybin seemed to help the rats stick to a healthy body weight, even with eating restrictions. Second, it also enhanced what's called cognitive flexibility, as measured by subsequent learning tasks.
Compared with a control group, the rats getting small doses of psilocybin were more resistant to weight loss, more often above a baseline body weight, and quicker to adapt their behavior and exercises testing learning capacity. That's promising. And through the use of scientific receptor blockers, the researchers were also able to identify the 5-HT1A serotonin receptor as being a critical part of the process, enabling the cognitive benefits of psilocybin, which should help in future studies.
And we know that anorexia has the highest mortality rate of any psychiatric disorder. This is a sobering fact and a reminder of the effects of the condition. I didn't realize that. I learned something new. At the moment, the most common pharmaceutical treatment prescribed for individuals with anorexia is antidepressants. However, results can be mixed, which is why health professionals are on the lookout for more effective approaches.
Administered in the right way, experts are hopeful that the way psilocybin activates the serotonin receptors in the brain, causing expanded and altered states of consciousness, might shift mental blocks that have developed around eating. This still needs to be shown in humans, of course, and the fact that not all rats respond to psilocybin in the same way shows that more research will be needed to figure out whether this is the right approach for everyone diagnosed with anorexia.
Cognitive inflexibility is the hallmark of the condition, often arising before symptoms of anorexia nervosa are obvious and persisting after weight recovery, making this symptom a primary target for therapeutic intervention, says psychologist Claire Foldy from Monash University. And research is being published by Molecular Psychiatry. I can't say it. Couldn't get it out.
Big words. No, that's good because people deal with anorexia. They give them antidepressants, so they believe that they're depressed, and that's what's causing them not to eat.
I had absolutely no idea that it's the number one cause of death for psychological disorders. I had no idea.
Yeah. No, eh? See, like you say, you learn something every day. Alrighty, on to the next story. This one comes to us from StratCan. Headline says AGLC delisting more than 500 cannabis SKUs.
Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis, which is the AGLC, has notified several licensed producers that they will soon be delisting more than 500 slow-selling SKUs from the central warehouse. Several producers received recent notices from the AGLC informing them the SKUs will be put into the agency do not purchase list.
Ooh.
That's nice.
Yeah, a representative from the AGLC confirmed with StratCan. They say AGLC is reviewing our cannabis product listings in order to streamline our supply chain, better manage inventory, and remove some slow-moving SKUs. Simplifying our supply chain will create more efficiencies and allow Alberta to focus more on best-performing products. This impacts about 550 to 600 SKUs. We are working with stakeholders to make this transition gradually over the next month to allow sell-through of impacted products.
I hate that they're doing this. It makes me crazy because the medical side of it, we find what works for us and we go back to that again and again and again.
Correct.
If
And
you
it might
eliminate
not,
if they eliminate it because it's
John.
not selling fast, it doesn't mean that people don't need it.
Correct.
Alberta continues to have a wide range of products available for retailers and consumers. We encourage Albertans to talk with their retailer to find something similar if a product is no longer available, which sometimes can't be found. The move will allow the AGLC to free up warehouse space through their third-party vendor for fast-moving products. BC recently announced similar changes to its policy for accepting new products and storing existing products as the industry closes in on 6 years of operation.
This sort of SKU rationalization is not uncommon in or outside the cannabis industry, and other provinces have instituted similar measures, although at times with more notice. One compliant StratCan heard from more than one producer who reached out to us on the issue was a sense of frustration that this policy change came with little to no advance notice. Another producer, speaking on background, says they have received an initial notification from the AGLC last week informing them that certain SKUs would be delisted effective immediately before receiving a second notice, giving them 30 to 45 days before they would be delisted. Which way?
If you give them no notice, it takes months and months to create this product.
Yeah.
You give them no notice, they got a warehouse full of this product now. It doesn't make sense. Although the reasoning behind such a quick delisting process is unclear, the province has been making efforts to provide more opportunities for its local cannabis industry. Sources close to the file say the regulator is interested in topics like farm gate and even direct delivery, which could potentially offer more opportunities to local producers and retailers to distinguish themselves from bigger chains. And the AGLC uses a third-party company, Connect Logistics, to manage its warehouse and wholesale distribution.
There you go. Yeah. I can understand where they want a clean house, okay, and get rid of some stuff. If stuff's not selling, it's business.
But this is not milk. You can't go to another company and get the same milk.
Well, that's the thing. I've seen patients that have had, and these patients were young patients. They were children who were licensed, and the parents were in the news because of the fact that the product that was working for their child is no longer available. And, they're given a list of stuff that they could try, but it doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah,
as well,
especially when you're dealing with someone who actually took the time to find something that worked for their child. Like, that's a hard thing to do. Every one of us is different. So some things don't work for my children that would work for yours. And
that's right.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I hate to be a parent that, is like that. I know on myself, on the pharmaceutical end, I've seen on 2 prescriptions that I've had over the years to deal with my Crohn's, where a drug has run out and I've had to take an alternative one instead.
That's a little different because it actually ran out. I mean, they didn't physically remove it, even though it was working.
No, exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's going to come back. On my end, yeah. They just need to make more, whereas they've just stopped growing it.
Yeah, right? I don't know. It's a hard thing to deal with, and I know it's a business, right? But we're a medical thing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
All
righty. On to the next story. This one comes to us from Entrepreneur. Headline says, owner of 7 unlicensed New York cannabis shops fined $15 $15 million.
New York Attorney General Letitia James has slapped the owner of 7 unlicensed cannabis shops in the state with fines amounting to $15.2 million, according to CNY Central Report. David Tully, who's the owner of I'm Stuck and Weed Warehouse, unlicensed cannabis dispensary chains, ignored repeated notices and orders from the Office of Cannabis Management to cease operations, the Attorney General said.
Well, they were warned, I guess, as some people could say. Tully's businesses located in Cayuga, Oswego, and Wayne counties are accused of illegally selling cannabis without a license and selling cannabis to underage customers. The fines include $7 million as a disgorgement of the company's illegal profits and $8.2 million in penalties for operating without a license and ignoring multiple warnings and notices from officials.
Sorry, go ahead.
These illegal and unlicensed stores are budding up throughout the state and hurting our communities. Today, David Tully is paying a $15 million price for his repeated illegal activity and will be permanently banned from the cannabis industry in New York. This punishment should serve as a clear warning for all unlicensed stores in the state. We will enforce the law and shut down your operations. And that is from the AG James in the statement.
Yep. New York law imposes a $10,000 penalty per day of selling cannabis without a license and a $20,000 penalty per day of continuing to sell cannabis after having been ordered to stop by officials. The move is the state's most significant enforcement action against illegal cannabis shops since Governor Kathy Hochul, who's a Democrat, called the legal industry's rollout a disaster in February, ordered an extensive audit of the state's cannabis regulations in March, and earlier this month announced the impending departure of the state's top cannabis regulator.
That's a big fine. And, all those raids in Toronto and stuff, when they were shutting down the cannabis stores in the city, I never heard of any $15 million fines.
No, they like to put the screws to you in the States a lot worse. I find it weird that he had so many warnings and just ignored them.
Well, that's the thing, Like they're saying that we gave you a chance. We gave you an opportunity and you didn't take it.
Yeah. And to be fair, New York, their rollout of this has been disastrous. There's no to get anything, and people are that's why they're going to his shop, because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it has been a disaster, and we're going to learn more about that later on in the broadcast. But before then, we're going to go to MJ Biz Daily, where they're talking about Thailand plans to ban recreational cannabis despite the 2022 decriminalization. I told people this was going to happen.
In a major policy reversal, Thailand plans to reclassify cannabis as an illegal substance and issue permits only for medicinal or medical patients, cultivators, and research purposes. Recreational cannabis use will be banned, Public Health Minister Somas Thepustin said in a Facebook post, Reuters reported.
Thepustin comments came only weeks after the Prime Minister called on the Health Minister to reclassify recreational cannabis as an illegal substance. Now, according to the Bangkok Post, Thepustin also said that only cannabis buds would be reclassified as a Category 5 narcotic. Just the buds. The leaves aren't. Just the buds.
That's strange. So, can you make oil out of it? No bud anymore.
There's no trichomes on the leaves, on those big fan leaves.
Yeah. Category 5 drugs, which include opium and psilocybin, carry criminal penalties in Thailand for manufacturing, importing, exporting, sale, and possession. Cannabis leaves, branches, roots, stems, and seeds will still be available for use for approved health and medical applications. So they're banning buds even for medical? Hard to understand this.
Yeah. Well, that's what it says. Category, yeah. They classified the buds the same as opium and psilocybin.
Wow.
Hemp, which is also removed from the Category 5 list, will not face similar restrictions. The THC count, that's what it'll talk about. The new policy essentially will reverse Thailand's 2022 move to decriminalize cannabis, although the Asian country failed to immediately implement comprehensive regulations and enforcement mechanisms to restrict what would be sold and where.
Amid the largely unchecked marketplace, thousands of stores open, prompting politicians to pledge to address the issue. What that they have stores opening? I've yet to see anything like people going crazy there on cannabis. I haven't seen any of this. It's very strange to me. What's the use of reversing this policy?
Well, they didn't like the fact that what the present government did at that time. Okay.
Yeah.
And so during the election, another party said, well, this is what's going on with the cannabis thing. This is getting nasty, bad, and it needs to be outlawed again. And people voted for them.
And in 4 more years or 8 more years, they'll be voted out and it'll be back. Like, this is just like back and forth, back and forth.
It's just, I'm waiting for them to announce that the death penalty is coming back.
Could you imagine? A policy reversal has sparked widespread protests from cannabis advocacy groups, including store owners. Shortly after taking office, Taviston vowed to rewrite cannabis law that would allow only medical use in Thailand, the first Asian nation to decriminalize cannabis.
Yeah, there you go. He said it during his being elected, Yeah. And people knew what he was going to do.
Yeah, I just don't know if he got elected for this policy or for another policy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and yet, oh no, he won't do that. He won't do that. Cannabis there's too many stores, blah, 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 right? Well.
So if there's thousands of stores, that means there's literally thousands of producers. So he's cutting out like probably tens of thousands of people out of their jobs and economy right now.
Yeah, he's just cut it right off, just medical only. So there you go. That's what can happen. All righty. Time for us to take a break. Time for us to hear from some sponsors. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News here on paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And welcome back to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Just a quick reminder to everybody, tomorrow, as people have been probably seeing on our YouTube and Facebook locations, that tomorrow, Tuesday, Pace Radio Network, 420radio.ca, will be broadcasting live from the Grow Up Expo and Conference in Toronto tomorrow throughout the day. Yeah, we're going to do a couple of, probably, I think three or four segments throughout the day. Allow a little bit of charge time and a little bit of, our time. We got to be able to eat, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be I'll be down in Toronto as well as MJ and Timmy from Newbie and Doobie. The three of us will be down there covering the event, which includes a segment where we'll be listening and seeing Tommy Chong up on the stage talking about cannabis.
Do you know what time that is so people can tune into it?
We'll be starting at, as long as traffic is good and stuff, we'll be going live at 10 o'clock. But as far as the Tommy Chong thing, that starts at 4:15 is when he's supposed to go live.
Awesome.
He's supposed to be on the stage. Now, they've also given media people opportunities to interview some of the speakers and stuff like that. And that includes Tommy Chong.
Nice. So you're hoping for an interview?
So I could get an interview. It depends on availability and time. I got the request in late, so I don't know whether to go through or not. But we'll see what happens.
Here's hoping it does.
If even if we don't get the personal interview, we'll be able to. We're going to cover them on the stage. We'll have a couple different camera angles and stuff, and be able to do all that. Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. On to the next story. This one comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. Headline says, DEA says THCA does not meet the definition of legal hemp as Congress weighs cannabinoid recriminalization in Farm Bill.
To meet the federal definition of hemp under the 2018 Farm Bill, a cannabis product must contain less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC. Now, in a new letter clarifying that limit, the top Drug Enforcement Administration official says the threshold includes not only Delta-9 THC itself, but also the related cannabinoid THCA, which is converted into Delta-9 THC when heated, a process known as decarboxylation. In regards to THCA, Congress has directed that when determining whether a substance constitutes hemp, the Delta-9 THC concentration is to be tested using post-decarboxylation or other similarly reliable methods, says the letter, sent earlier this month by Terrence Booz, who's the chief DEA drug and chemical evaluation section.
Yeah, according to Booz, the decarboxylation process converts Delta-9 THC into Delta-9 THCA to Delta-9 THC. Thus, for the purpose of enforcing the hemp definition, the Delta-9 THC level must account for any Delta-9 THCA. According to the cannabis-derived THC does not meet the definition of hemp under the CSA, he concluded, because upon conversion of for identification purposes as required by Congress. It is equivalent to Delta 9 THC.
The position articulated in the May 13 letter comes in response to a request for clarification sent to DEA last month by cannabis attorney Shane Pennington, who declined to comment for the story. According to the DEA letter, Pennington's last month requested the control status of tetrahydrocarbinolic acid, THCA, under the Controlled Substances Act. A similar request from Pennington, a lawyer at the firm Porter Wright, was also the impetus for DEA's declaration in 2022 that cannabis seeds are considered legal hemp as long as they don't exceed federal THC limits. Now, in your experience with cannabis
seeds, in seeds.
do they contain high THC seeds?
Well, there's no THC in seeds.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. He's talking about seeds here.
That's what I go on. DEA's position on THCA comes as federal lawmakers reconsider how to address hemp and cannabinoids under a revised version of the Farm Bill, with the key House committee having recently adopted an amendment that would generally ban hemp-derived cannabinoids such as Delta 8 THC. Well, our last story was new government changing an existing policy, and now we have an existing government changing existing policy. DEA is essentially saying in the letter that because THC is readily converts into Delta 9 THC, it can't be ignored when measuring products Delta 9 THC level.
And that's not all how the U.S. hemp industry sees it, however. This interpretation would destroy the hemp industry, Jonathan Miller, General Counsel for the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, told Marijuana Moment on Friday. Most hemp growers, even fiber and grain growers, would be out of compliance. Asked if he thought hemp farmers would object to the idea that a product that tests at 0.2% Delta 9 THC, but also 4.6% THCA, Miller replied, "I would imagine nearly every hemp farmer and company would find this interpretation objectionable."
Sean Hauser, who co-chairs cannabis-focused law firm Vizient LLP's hemp and cannabinoids practice, said the Farm Bill requires biomass to be tested pre-harvest for total THC, which considers the percentage of THCA in pre-harvest material. Hemp products are required to have a pre-harvest certificate of analysis showing the products are compliant. Well, if it's pre-harvested, it's obviously it hasn't been decarboxylated.
No. So pre-harvest, a plant with high THCA likely exceeds the maximum allowable THC content and wouldn't be lawful, Hauser said. This has been a point of confusion among businesses and state regulators. I'm confused about it. Never mind them. The situation, including ongoing discussions of how to amend the Farm Bill's handling of cannabinoids, just underscores the imminent need for legalization and regulation of the whole plant, she added. Trying to draw arbitrary lines in a plant and the law without a federal regulatory or enforcement framework just doesn't work.
Booz, DEA Drug and Chemical Evaluation Section Chief, has been responsible for a number of recent agency opinions on cannabis and other drugs. Notably in 2022, for example, he penned the DEA letter clarifying that cannabis seeds are considered legal hemp as long as they fall under the federal THC limits. Booz issued another relevant administrative interpretation last year when he asserted that DEA considers the intoxicating cannabinoids Delta 8 THC an illicit Schedule 1 drug if it's synthesized from federal legal CBD.
And more recently, he opined in a January letter that psilocybin mushroom spores are not, on their own, federally prohibited. They became illegal only after they began producing psilocybin, he said. If a mushroom spores or any other material do not contain psilocybin or psilocin, any other controlled substance or listed chemical, the material is considered not controlled under the Controlled Substances Act, Booz wrote at the time.
The Delta 8 THC products have proliferation on the market since hemp's legalization, essentially existing in an unregulated legal gray area. If the cannabinoid is naturally extracted from hemp, it's federally legal. But if it's generally considered common practice to synthesize it from CBD because it's a more cost-effective process, some states have taken steps to restrict the Delta-8 THC, however. At DEA's 2023 Supply Chain Conference in May, Booz similarly explained that synthetic cannabinoids are banned, and he said that DEA is in the process of developing a final rule to formally clarify that policy at the recommendation of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Booz also told the lawyer last year that the minor cannabinoid Delta-8 THC-0 and the Delta-9 THC-O are prohibited because they can only be synthetically produced. Some experts have disputed the DEA's interpretation of the statute on intoxicating hemp-based cannabinoids. However, a federal appeals court ruled in 2022 that the way that the existing rules are written makes Delta-8 THC exempt from control, as the law is silent on the minor cannabinoid while clearly legalizing hemp extracts and derivatives.
The arguments come amid an ongoing effort to reformulate hemp and cannabinoid sections of the Farm Bill. On Thursday, a key House committee amended this year's pending Farm Bill in a way that would impose a general ban on hemp-derived cannabinoids that are synthesized or manufactured outside of the plant would no longer meet the definition of legal hemp.
And some industry stakeholders have said the change could even federally criminalize CBD products because the measure would apply to all ingestible hemp products with any level of THC. Several Republican members of the Congressional Committee, however, made comments in opposition to the amendment.
American farmers around the country have invested their time and resources over the last 6 years to develop a domestic supply chain of hemp and hemp products. Hemp provides great opportunity for a family farm to diversify the farm income by using hemp as a rotational crop. Using hemp.
I think it's supposed to be hemp.
I'd say so. Yeah. American farmers deserve the certainty afforded with the current definition of hemp. The proposed amendment arbitrarily changes the current congressional written definition of hemp.
Paradoxically, select cannabis businesses have found themselves on the same side as prohibitionists in pushing such a ban. In a letter to congressional leaders last month, the U.S. Cannabis Council proposed specific language they wanted to see included that would place hemp-derived cannabinoids containing any amount of THC under the definition of federally illegal marijuana. While they've focused on the need to address public safety concerns related to unregulated intoxicating cannabinoid products, such as Delta-8 THC, some hemp industry advocates say the effect of the proposed language could be a ban on virtually all non-intoxicating CBD products, as well as most of the market contain at least trace levels of THC, consistent with the Farm Bill definition of hemp that allows for up to 0.3% THC by dry weight.
Yes. Now it says here that the 2018 Farm Bill has wrongly been used to justify the mass production and sale of unregulated intoxicating hemp products. USCC Executive Director Ed Conklin said in a press release following the amendment vote. He says, "We support a uniform approach to regulating intoxicating THC products. That means intoxicating hemp products should be regulated the same as cannabis products. We believe that all of these products should be available for sale to adults with strict age gating and safety standards." Miller at the U.S. Hemp Roundtable alerted supporters to the amendment's introduction on Thursday, saying the group members strongly opposed the legislation and urged lawmakers to defeat it.
Outside of the cannabinoid ban, the bill, as drafted, would build upon the federal legalization of the crop under 2018 version of the legislation in several meaningful ways, including by revising the definition of hemp to create separate categories for producers who grow the crop for cannabinoid extraction for human and animal consumption, and for industrial hemp producers who cultivate it for fiber, grain, oil, seed, not intended for consumption. Under the legislation, those who are licensed as industrial hemp producers could see reduced regulatory restrictions, with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, states, and the Indian tribes empowered to authorize visual inspection and performance-based sampling methodologies for compliance purposes.
Farmers growing hemp to extract cannabinoids for human or animal consumption, however, would continue to be subject to more intensive inspections and laboratory testing as prescribed under the 2018 Farm Bill. Meanwhile, the hemp market started to rebound in 2023 after suffering significant losses the prior year. The latest annual industry report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture that was released last month. The data is a result of the survey of USDA mailed to thousands of hemp farmers across the U.S. in January. The first version of the department's hemp report was released in early 2022, setting a benchmark to compare to as the industry matures.
And bipartisan lawmakers and industry stakeholders have sharply criticized FDA for declining to enact regulations for hemp-derived CBD, which they say is largely responsible for the economic stagnation. To that end, FDA Commissioner Robert Califf testified before the House Oversight and Accountability Committee last month, where he faced questions about the agency's position that it needed additional congressional authorization to regulate the non-intoxicating cannabinoid. USDA also reportedly revoking hemp licenses for farmers who are simultaneously growing cannabis under state-approved programs, underscoring yet another policy conflict stemming from the ongoing federal prohibition of some forms of the cannabis plant. So you can't grow both crops because that's bad.
No, you can't. Yeah, the story goes on. It gets quite long. It's quite long, but so I'm gonna cut it off there. But yeah, you can see
I got one thing
they're
to
going
say.
to.
I think they're going to wind up outlawing the sale of seeds too, because seeds eventually grow into plants that have cannabis in them. So this is what they're doing with this plant now.
Yeah, but with mushrooms, they say that the spores are legal. I think of the spores as being like seeds.
I think they'll be trying to change the laws on that too.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. No, I wouldn't doubt it.
It seems to me that anything that can be changed to something else, they're trying to outlaw. And most things these days can be changed.
Yeah, because they keep talking about the synthesizing. Anything that's synthesized, they don't want.
And what the hell does growing hemp in one field and growing cannabis in another field, as long as you're licensed to do it, what's the difference? Who cares? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, cannabis is illegal.
That's like saying you can't make Coke and ginger ale because, ginger ale and Coke don't go together. What the hell? I don't understand it.
Well, it's because cannabis is federally illegal. Hemp isn't.
True.
So that's probably more reason than anything why. So, alrighty, on to the next story of the day. StratCan brings us break-in at West Kelowna cannabis store.
A cannabis store in West Kelowna was broken into in the early hours of Friday morning, leaving behind extensive damage and making off with a handful of pre-rolls. Just a handful? Sky Cannabis Co., located on Industrial Road in West Kelowna in a small shopping center, shared with a gas station, is open again for business after cleaning up following the break-in just before 3 a.m. Friday, May 24th. These guys broke into a store to steal a handful of pre-rolls.
I saw somebody I know on Twitter. They posted this story and they said pre-rolls with a big question mark on it. Like, you broke in there for pre-rolls? A handful? Natasha Ray, the owner of the store, says she received an alert on her phone and quickly contacted the police, who responded quickly, but not before the burglars escaped. Those pre-rolls. Video of the incident shows the two bubbling burglars struggling to use a truck and a chain to rip the doors off the store before seeming to search in vain for products inside. Ray says they made off with only a handful of pre-rolls, but caused significant damage not only to the two doors, but to the back office and at least one display case. Everything else must have been locked up in the safe.
Can you imagine? These idiots ripped the front doors off a store to steal like $100 worth of pre-rolls.
Yeah.
Wow. Luckily, we're very secure, says Ray. We're happy that no one was hurt, but it's a lot of damage for little profit on their part. Yep. She says the two could have probably made more money working in her store for the day than they would likely make selling the handful of products. I don't think that's the point. I don't think they want to work in the store. They just want it free.
Yeah. Ray and her team have shared the video with police and with the community, many of whom she says have reached out to her saying they believe they recognize
the
maroon Dodge 4x4 truck and the two men involved. Now, two cannabis stores in BC's Lower Mainland faced similar break-ins earlier this year, causing significant damage to the stores and loss of product.
And there's a picture of the stores literally,
the
doors ripped apart in the front of the store, all for basically nothing. Just incredible.
Yeah. They probably, obviously, they expected to get more than just pre-rolls, but they are required to lock up stuff. And, maybe in the end, that's what's, obviously, I think that's probably what saved.
They had enough power to rip the doors off the store. You figure they could get into pretty well anything in there.
So.
Maybe a safe.
Maybe they couldn't hook onto the safe.
Yeah.
Okay, get out of the other way.
And they just happen to be driving a maroon colored red Dodge 4x4, which can't be identified ever.
Yeah. There's probably a few of them around. Okay, I'm just trying to set up the next story here because it's just sort of acting a little strange for me. All right, here we go. This one comes to us from the Hill. The headline says, "Amendment killing national legal cannabis makes it into the House Farm Bill." So this might be similar to the last one.
A ban on intoxicating hemp products has made it into the House version of the Farm Bill. If the amendment makes it through a polarized House and divided Congress, it would be America's brief experiment with nationally legal cannabis. The language added to the House version of the Farm Bill by Representative Mary Miller, who's a Republican, in effect repeals a sweeping legal change passed by an all-Republican coalition in 2018's Farm Bill.
That previous bill made it easier for American farmers to grow non-intoxicating varieties of cannabis, defined in the statute as hemp for industrial and medical use. But vagueness in the law's wording, combined with the fact that intoxicating and non-intoxicating varieties of cannabis are functionally the same plant, allowing the evolution over the past 6 years of something not seen in America since the Gilded Age, a thriving market in universally available and largely unregulated cannabis products.
And because of the ambiguity created by the 2018 Farm Bill, a massive gray market worth an estimated $28 billion has exploded. A coalition of 22 states' attorney generals wrote to Congress in March, demanding members shut it down. The attorneys argued that 2018 law forced cannabis equivalent products into our economies, regardless of the state's intentions to legalize cannabis use, and dangerously undermining regulations and consumer protections in states where adult use legal cannabis programs are already in place.
Miller's amendment, which was co-sponsored by Rep. Doug LaMalfa, who is from a state with legal cannabis, restricts the definition of legal hemp to naturally occurring, naturally derived, and non-intoxicating cannabinoids. This likely means cannabinoids like Delta-8 would be out.
Yeah, too soon would intoxicating drinks and edibles containing Delta-9 THC or THCA, different names for what is roughly the same active chemical in the cannabis sold in regulated states like California. In a statement, Miller said she was proud of her amendment was included to close the loophole that has allowed drug-infused THC products like Delta-8 to be sold to teenagers in packaging that looks like candy.
The hemp sector, by contrast, a $28 billion industry, fired back on Friday. They said the Hemp Roundtable asked all representatives to vote against the Farm Bill unless the Mayor Miller amendment is removed, referring to the language as hemp industry killing. The National Cannabis Industry Trade Group, which represents both industries, was more equivocal.
Co-founder Aaron Smith called for Senate federal regulations that apply equally to hemp and cannabis-derived cannabinoid products. Congress discusses addressing the profusion of arguably legal cannabinoids in last year's attempted Farm Bill, but the combination of wide divides in Congress and the chaos around the election of House Speaker Mike Johnson mooted any such attempts.
As in such, with the Farm Bill, the potential crackdown on hemp brings together an array of strange bedfellows. Marijuana farmers in states like California and Nevada, which have tightly regulated recreational markets, have been among the loudest voices calling on a crackdown on intoxicating hemp, a competing product that is often functionally identical to their own, but shorn of any regulation whatsoever.
In part, that is because the U.S. Food and Drug Administration insists hemp products are not safe and therefore does not regulate them. The amendment, however, will only impact the large and growing hemp market if it passes the House, which is far from assured. And it will also have to make it through the Senate, which requires both sides to find a way through the reforms to food aid and reforms to food aid that Democrats and a wide array of civil society groups see as cuts.
Yeah, the Senate's version of the Farm Bill reauthorizes the hemp program without changing its definition. So there we go. Yeah, it's just, just legalize cannabis. Just, wouldn't that be easier?
One day.
So, as I mentioned earlier, New York has got problems, and we get that before the show is over. And we're going to get that right now with this article from...
I just lost that article.
Did you? Oh, it's from the city. The New York cannabis chief resigns after criticism from Hochul. So you lost the article, so you can't follow along.
I'm getting it back right now.
All right, I'll just go. Did you? Okay.
Oh, I got part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? The head of the state cannabis agency resigned on Friday following weeks of public turmoil between the agency and Governor Kathy Hochul's office. I have been reluctant to write this email due to the deep connection and commitment I have to this work and to this team. And while I plan to serve out the remainder of my term, I no longer have confidence in my ability to do my job and lead this team effectively under current circumstances, Chris Alexander wrote in an email obtained by the city.
Hochul appointed Alexander the position in September of 2021 as the inaugural head of the Office of Cannabis Management. Hochul said in a statement saying that I am grateful for Chris Alexander's work, first in developing, securing the passage of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, and then launching the Office of Cannabis Management.
As OCM transitions into its final phase, or to next phase, we look forward to continuing the world of building the strongest, most equitable industry in the nation, the statement continued. The Office of Cannabis Management did not immediately respond to her request for comment.
In January, Hochul called the rollout of the legal market a disaster and ordered a 30-day review of the agency by the Office of General Services. Earlier this month, she released a report following the review that criticized the inexperienced leadership of the Office of Cannabis Management and pointed to inefficiencies in the licensing process, as well as sparse service for applicants awaiting determinations on their licenses. In a press conference, Hochul said it was time for the agency to take a new direction, noting that Alexander would step down at the end of his term in September.
As Hochul announced the news, Alexander is still presiding over a Cannabis Control Board meeting in Albany. During the public comments part of the meeting, some came to his defense as the news broke. Chris, I don't want you to step down. Nobody wants you to step down, Matthew Robinson, a retail licensee, told the meeting attendees. We support you 100%, he said to Applause.
2 weeks later, Alexander resigned, saying it has been an honor of a lifetime to lead this group of the most dedicated public servants that I have ever encountered, he said in an email. The Cannabis Regulators of Color Coalition, a national advocacy organization, rejected the Office of General Services report findings and criticized Hochul for not reinstating Alexander as executive director of the agency. In a statement, the coalition called the report biased and inflammatory, and said the decision to not reinstate Alexander possesses a grave threat to the progress and integrity of equitable cannabis regulation in New York State.
The Office of Cannabis Management wrote its own response to the Office of General Services report, criticizing the agency for not providing a copy of the report and pointing to a number of factual misstatements and significant omissions, according to a confidential draft of the report obtained by the city. The agency shared the response with legislators. The opposing reports put the tensions between Governor's Office and the Office of Cannabis Management in public view and were further underscored by Alexander's decision to resign more immediately than intended.
In his resignation letter, he said, "It would be disingenuous for me to not acknowledge how difficult the last several months have been. There is so much left to do, but I have the utmost confidence in this team and in you all to stay focused on the mission and keep driving things forward." So there you go.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of noise what's going on down there in New York.
The one thing I do remember that I absolutely love that they did last summer, and it was a experimental program. They allowed some cannabis sale at farmers markets, and I really like that because it fits in. The farmers are the one who grows the bloody crop. Why couldn't you sell it at farmers markets?
Well, they did that. They did that because they couldn't get the stores open quick enough.
Yeah.
So they went and people had product to sell. So they opened up the farmers market. They had to be legal businesses. It couldn't just be, you know, mom and dad down the road rolling in the basement. But yeah, you know, it'd be nice.
I just thought it was a wonderful idea because you can go to most places, even the farmers market, and you sit in the restaurant. You can order a beer, but you can't have any cannabis. It makes no sense at the farmers market.
Yeah, I know. All righty. Other than that, from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it informative and educational. Thank you to Legacy420.com, Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, and to our viewers. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.